welcome back to our Golden 20s podcast. My name is Sadie, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tegan.
Hey.
And we are here for another weekly episode.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we are talking all about a hot topic so far this year,
Mm-hmm.
which is sober curiosity, dry January, all of that kind of thing. So we're just going to talk about alcohol. And this is actually something we haven't even touched on, I don't think, in the podcast history, which is dramatic. But like I said, it's a hot topic. Tegan and I are just going to share our thoughts and opinions and experiences and a little bit of reflection since we both did dry January. So wanted to just start off by saying that maybe in the future we can have like a guest or something come on and talk about this, because I think it'll be a hot topic for a while to come and only get bigger. So
for sure.
So that's what we're talking about today. But before we do that, we thought an effort again for these weekly segments, we are going to do a connection card. And I think another hot topic is connection cards these days. I feel there's so many like games and I don't know, just like different ones, if it's for deepening your relationship with your partner, and like couples themed ones, if it's self-discovery, like connection cards are big right now, and I'm all about it, especially on the self-discovery piece. So we're going to pull one. I have this little deck I got for Christmas. We're going to answer a random one, and then we're going to post on Instagram for you guys to submit your answers as well. So this question says, describe your proudest moment.
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, I think I have an answer.
Okay.
So the day I got engaged, I was in Hawaii, and we had had a rooftop party, and we're popping bottles and all this. So it was like, this is very exciting. I'm proud that my relationship's gotten to this point. I'm proud that I have a life where this is what it looks like. And then as I was in bed, I was like instantly on Pinterest like a psycho and was like, okay, let's start planning what's going on. And as I was scrolling through my phone, I got served an ad that was the first video that I had edited all by myself.
Wow.
And I got served it, and I was like, oh my God, like it's all happening right now. And so that's the moment that came to mind for me.
I love that. I like this segment too, because I'm like, I'm going to learn about you.
I know.
You're going to learn about me, like things that we otherwise
I've told anyone about that moment. So,
yeah. I love that so much. That's very cool. Especially like you said, it was in that moment where you're just like reflecting on your life and how much.
And it's all happening and all positive. Like, there's not a lot of points in my life, probably in anyone's life, where I can like look and be like, everything was going great.
Yeah.
And, like now looking back, things didn't turn out great. Like bad things happened, whatever. But in that moment, things were good.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I'm trying to think for me what my answer is. I think it might be, well, I don't know. I think it would be landing a job in like the fashion retail industry post grad. And my first job, so my first ever job was full-time job, post grad was retail, and I was a manager. So it was like working on the sales floor. That I wasn't super proud of. Like I was happy to have that full-time job as soon as I graduated, but it was once I got like my first office job for a Canadian retailer, and I was in the head office, and I was literally seeing everything I learned in school. It was kind of one of those moments where I was like, this is happening. Like my Devil Wears Prada life is unfolding before my eyes. And it was a lot. It wasn't glamorous, as you learn in Devil Wears Prada. It's not a glamorous life, but it was like, this is what I've always dreamed of. I'm living in Toronto, same thing as you. Living in Toronto. I'm paying rent in a cute apartment. The apartment I still live in, actually, I moved in right after I graduated. So it kind of all coincides with that. Proud of my apartment, proud of my life in the city, and now I'm working in the field that I studied in school.
Yeah.
And it's all coming together. So I think that's my answer.
I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easy to I don't know what the right word is, but to brush things off like that, like it's not a big deal. Like to land a job in the field that you studied.
It's like obviously.
Yeah, that's what I went to school for. But it's like actually
it's
thinking
hard
about it. Yeah, like and thinking about the people that I went to school with and the jobs that they have.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, not everyone gets to do that.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is getting the job and being like, this feels right. Because I think there's also what you study in school, and then of course the connection card's getting me deep in thought and like spiraling out into some other it is working. But I think too, what you study in school and kind of like theoretically in the ideal world, I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, but learning about something in an industry and a job and then going into the workplace and actually doing it.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect there. And there's a chance that when you're actually doing this 9 to 5 every single day for the rest of your life, it's not going to feel right, or it's not going to be what you thought it was, or whatever. So I think it's even more, I don't know, like you're more proud of it when you do land that job and it clicks and it feels
working.
Right. Yeah. And you're like, this is what I've always wanted, and it's feels right.
Yeah, for sure. I love that.
Great. Well, like I said, we're going to post this on Instagram, so make sure you're following us at Our Golden 20s. Get in on the action, guys.
This will be so wholesome. I can't wait to see everyone's like proudest moments. This is
and
of
like course,
hyped.
Yes, we also do share things anonymously. So if that's going to be holding you back from sharing, don't worry about it, because nobody will know it came from you.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though maybe you want them to, because you're like, we're talking about things I'm proud of.
You could
like,
sign your name.
I did that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Well, I think we can dive into talking about Dry January, our experiences this year. Both Sadie and I participated in Dry January, as it feels like the whole world did.
Yeah.
Or at least like the people I see on TikTok, which is, like women Instagram. Our age. Yeah. It's like everyone was in it. Even like the big Instagram pages I followed were posting mocktails. And it was just very trendy.
So can I tell you why I think that is?
Sure.
And this is where I want to again say, these are our opinions. This is not fact-based or like backed up by science, nothing.
Yeah.
So take everything we're saying in this episode with a grain of salt as like our perspective.
Yeah.
But I feel like why it's such a big thing and why it's going to continue to be a big thing is because the conversation around mental health is just getting started. And I think the more we open up about mental health, which is great, people feel less alone. They find people to relate to, it's a good thing. But people are also starting to be like, drinking makes me feel shitty.
Yeah.
Why am I doing it? And then all of a sudden, other people are like, wait, maybe that's why I also feel shitty after I drink. Like, I didn't know anxiety is a word. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought it was just me. But now that, we're in this kind of cultural or societal shift of talking about mental health, prioritizing mental health, and it's coming into conversation, people are learning, the side effects of alcohol. And I think alcohol specifically is a big one, because I started actually following this girl. Let me find her name right now. Her first name's Olivia, but she just dropped a podcast called On the Rocks. And she has an Instagram account where she posts mocktails. I actually made Tegan and I one.
Yeah.
It didn't really turn out the way
I liked it.
I thought.
Yeah.
It was like kombucha, you said.
Yeah, it felt very healthy.
Yeah.
Which is good, but some mocktails, it's like you feel like you're drinking alcohol.
Right.
That was not this.
No, this felt like, kombucha. I'm cleansing my insides.
Yeah, a ginger juice or something. Yeah.
So this girl's name is Olivia Noceda, Noceda. And like I said, she just launched a podcast called On the Rocks, where she's going to be talking to like experts on this, because she's sober curious.
Yeah.
She's sober and she posts mocktail recipes. So definitely a good follow. But anyways, why was I starting to talk about her? I don't even remember now. I guess I just wanted to plug her podcast and to check her out. But all of this to say, I think it's just coming into play with the conversation around mental health.
Yeah.
And how drinking. Oh, I think what I was going to say is through following her and kind of starting to see more about sober curiosity is alcohol is interesting because it's so ingrained in our society.
Yes.
And it's without you even realizing and without like you even really thinking about it. Like when you go out with friends, it probably depends on your city, but here in Toronto, like to go out with a friend or to catch up with a friend, it's like, where are we getting dinner and drinks?
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Even Canadian culture, I find, is very drinking focused. Maybe like
beer.
That's what we do away. Best. Like Caesars with brunch, like
mimosas.
Yeah.
Everything. It's just like, why?
Yeah. This is why I have two theories. I agree with your theory about mental health becoming more of sort of like an openly talked about thing, and obviously alcohol consumption being linked to that. I also think, like you were saying, the societal expectations around drinking are changing, whereas, I don't know, like back in the day, everyone drank all the time, and they would drink and drive, and like you could drink at work.
Yeah.
And
you're like, can I talk about Mad Men for a second?
Yeah, literally, where everyone's drinking all the time. And there are still places like that. Like I worked
Agency
at a place
life.
like that. Yeah. But that's starting to change. And it's not like, I feel like there was a time where if someone didn't drink, it was like, oh, red flag.
Yeah.
Something's weird there. Like they must have a DUI or like some shit's gone down. Where it's like now there are lots of people who just don't drink because they don't like it, or like it's a different thing. My other, which is maybe more of a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
But
again, our thoughts and opinions.
Yeah. I'm very interested in like this recession core that I keep hearing about, where it's like actresses aren't wearing necklaces anymore. And it's because jewelry is going to be out of fashion because we're going into a recession and people won't be buying luxury items, that kind of thing. So I also think if you are trying to cut down on expenses, alcohol is something that's very expensive and so can be one of the easiest ways to save money. And so I also think that it's becoming more popular because if you're like, I'm looking at my budget, what can I cut? You still have to pay groceries, you still have to pay rent. Whereas if you're like, well, I'm going to stop drinking or only drink on Friday nights or whatever, that could be a big way to save money. So I also feel like that's part of it.
Especially going out, like that dinner and drinks thing. Like if you go out and just drink water, even like pop or anything else besides a drink, like my drinks in Toronto typically cost more than like your main course.
Yeah.
Like, they can. And you might, but I hardly ever only have one drink. I have one while we're waiting for our food, and then I'll have another one, and it's like a 2-drink minimum.
Yeah.
But then it doubles your bill. So I find that interesting that you bring up like saving money through the recession. My mind was kind of opposite, where I was like, tough times, people turn to alcohol.
Oh,
like
that could
you're getting laid off. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is a good way to save money. So.
Yeah. It maybe is depending on what kind of drinker you are. Like,
if you're like casual.
Yeah. Like social. I think both of us would consider ourselves like social drinkers. And
except through the pandemic when I would literally just
I know that was
everyone
by
myself. Yeah.
My family, we would have like a happy hour at 5 where we would try a different recipe from a book, and it starts innocent where it's like, yeah, this is fun, we're on vacation, but then you're 3 weeks in and you're
drinking
like,
every day.
Holy shit, we were drinking a lot, and then it's I don't know. It's like one of those things where it like creeps up on you. Even like every month in December, when I go to like pay off my credit card, I'm like, I spend so much money at the liquor store. I spend so much money at bars. And it's like, you don't even realize or think about it. But it's like, well, I bought 6 bottles of wine and then I drank them all. And like, yeah.
And I think the most interesting part of that thought is, was it worth it? Like, was the alcohol being there why it was a good time? Or you know,
Yeah.
was it just the company, the environment, you know, the party, or was it the alcohol? Like,
Yeah.
I think that could be an interesting thought and like reflection, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, did you maybe want to start with saying why you wanted to do dry January? Maybe like your sober / drinking experience beforehand?
Yeah, I feel like it was interesting for me. So, and I'm just going to keep things extremely real and honest because I think it's going to also lead into things I learned through doing dry January.
Sure.
And it's, of course, it's me, guys. It's going to be deep and like a huge long rant. But the whole reason I've never done dry January. I've tried to cut out drinking before, like just for like a monthly goal kind of thing.
I remember you did like a sober October or something.
Yeah, I think so. Or November, I think. Like between my birthday and Christmas, I was like, there's no reason to drink. I'm going to be drinking a lot around there. So I've tried here and there.
Yeah.
But this was the first time I was like, okay, I'm going to cut out alcohol because I'm having things in my body that I'm trying to address. Okay. So I feel like I've had like a really bad hormonal imbalance for probably the majority of 2022. And it's things that I don't need to get into the specifics, but it's just things that I'd be like, this is really weird. The first one being I would sweat all the time, especially around my period. Yeah. And I would be like, this is so annoying, especially through the summer was when I really noticed it. And it was just hot and humid in Toronto anyway. So I was like, this sucks. But then it happened every single month around my period where literally I'll just be sitting at my desk typing and I'll have like sweat dripping down my arms. Yeah. And I'm like, this is not normal. Then I started noticing other things. And it's just like over time, as I was noticing all these things happening, I was like, there's something wrong. Like it's not just that I'm a sweaty person. Like I feel like there's a reason for it. And then all these other things, my skin actually is a big one. And you guys are like, please Sadie, spare us the rant about your skin. But like persistent acne is also a sign of a hormonal imbalance and whatever. So I was having things where I was just like, something's wrong and I need to kind of stabilize, kind of gut health, you know, just kind of play into this. So after the holidays, I was like, this is a great time to be very mindful of what I'm eating, cut out things like limiting my caffeine, which is a big one, cutting out alcohol. I think those are often the first two they recommend you ditch from your diet when you're trying to reset. But that was part of it. I did a juice cleanse. I try not to eat dairy already, but I was very mindful of that, sort of. I did have like Christmas chocolate and stuff. Yeah. So I was like just I was essentially my word for the month for January. This is something new I started this year, was kind of also having a word or intention for the month, which you guys are like, you already have a word for the year. You're crazy.
How many words are there?
Yeah, I know. But it's just a little intention, and reset was it for January. And that's kind of why, though, what spurred me to do dry January was this hormonal imbalance, trying to address it through like diet changes.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I had done dry January. This was my 3rd year. And I don't really know why I started, but I started with my mom and my brother, and we were all like, we're going to do this together. And so the first year I did it, we must have still been in a lockdown. And so maybe I found it hard.
After your weekly or your nightly mocktails, you guys were like, okay,
enough is enough. Even I just find after Christmas, like we're a big like boozy family. Like that's just part of my family. And so it's like after drinking straight for like a week and a half, you're like, I don't want to do it. Even sometimes I find coming back from vacation.
Exactly.
You're like, I need to stop.
Tapped out.
Yeah. And so the first year I did it, I found it hard. And I feel like I quit like 2 days early. And I don't know why, but it was like something was happening. Like it might have been like an award show on like a Sunday night. And the last day was like a Tuesday or something. So it wasn't like a catastrophic failure, but I ended 2 days early. But then last year when I did it, I found it super easy for some reason, where I went past January. I went on a trip to New York in the beginning of February. So I was like, I just won't drink until then. And I just found it easy. Again, we were in a lockdown. So maybe that made it easier. I don't know. And then this year was my 3rd year. Again, found it easy in certain ways, but hard in others. But I was just doing it because I'm like, this is now like my routine for January.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a reset. It's a chance to be like, okay, we're done with like the Christmas partying.
Yeah.
And January is just kind of like a dead month anyways.
Yeah.
Like it's not, it would be a lot harder, I think, to be like, I'm doing a dry December.
Yeah.
That
or
I
even
think I
the
would struggle
summer,
with. Yes.
like,
Yeah. So
prime time, I agree.
yeah, that's kind of why I did it. And I've been enjoying it every year. And every year I think gets easier too.
Yeah. That's
So.
one thing for me. I was surprised how difficult it was.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was like, that's going to be easy, no problem. And
Yeah.
then I guess we can kind of get into what we learned and take for you what you've learned over the years of doing this multiple times.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the biggest thing I learned was what my triggers are to drink
Right.
alcohol.
Yeah.
And it wasn't hard at first, and it sounds easy to not drink when I am just a social casual drinker. But for me, it was as soon as I had a bad day at work.
Yeah. See, this is me too.
Why? Like, why is
Yeah.
that a trigger? I don't know. Does a glass of wine at the end of a bad day make that day better? Like, why does
Yeah.
it provide me comfort? I don't know what it is. Because often, sorry, tripping over my words, I'll only have one glass of wine.
Yeah. So it's not like you're getting drunk.
To forget the day. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, no. And often it's me at home by myself while I'm cooking dinner. So it's unnecessary, but
yeah.
that's how I mentally,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I had a bad day at work, that triggered me to want a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It was just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
My other trigger is social. I think this is a common one, is social interactions.
Yeah.
So gatherings, or like I had a work social. So I was actually anxious about it,
Yeah.
knowing I couldn't drink,
Mm-hmm.
being like, this is the first time, this was kind of the beginning of the month. This is the first time I'm going to be going out with a group of friends. Everyone else is going to be ordering a drink except for me.
Right.
And I was like really worried about it. But I
Mhm.
was like, that was a trigger, is just like social interactions. And then my friend and I went to a Raptors game, and as soon as we got there, typically any live event, any event in general, the first thing I do is take a lap and hit the bar. You know,
Right.
then we'll find our seats, and but we just need to get a lay of the land and let's find the bar.
Yeah.
Even if you see like a live music show, like
Yeah.
same idea. So it was weird getting there. It was also Tuesday night. Like we didn't have to drink, but
Yeah.
getting there, I just remember being like, everything about it. I said to my friend, I feel like I'm having an out of body experience. And she's like, why? I was like, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's just the fact we're here. I also think it's me knowing I can't drink.
Yeah.
I
So you're
want
thinking
to
about it more.
Yeah, exactly. So it was interesting, but that was also something that I didn't ever really realize, is how often when I go out, the first thing I do is get
Yeah.
a drink, you know?
Yeah.
So it was interesting, but just the whole triggers piece is it. And actually, I was talking to my friend last week's episode. We were talking all about dating, and that was a really fun episode. So go listen to it. But I didn't go on any dates in January, but I started talking to people on the apps, and a few like attempts to set up dates.
Mm-hmm.
And I again had that social anxiety of, can I go on this date and not drink? Because I think
Yeah.
especially dating, you might be like me, where I'm not shy. You guys know
Mhm.
me. I'm here talking your ear off every week. But when I'm meeting somebody I don't know, I ask a lot of questions rather than
Yeah.
answer them. And I think when people start, this is also just Scorpio vibes, when people start asking me personal information about myself, and
Yeah.
it's easier to open up when you have some alcohol in your system,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everyone kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
So it just makes it easier, and again, eases my social anxiety around dating. So I think I probably would have cheated if I had a date in January.
Mhm.
I think I would have had a drink, but not the end of the world. I'm not talking like it would
Yeah.
So yeah, but what about you, Teg? What was your experience like, and was it hard? You said it gets easier every month, but
yeah, the thing I think
every month, sorry, every year.
Every year. I think the way that it's easier is you kind of squash your anxieties around the social interactions. Like the first year I did it, I was like, okay, got to figure out how to. This year, I was telling everyone, doing dry January, can't drink, you see my drink? It's because I'm doing dry January. Like, it's just a different vibe because it's almost like part of it is I feel okay to talk about it because I know I'm not going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I first started doing it, I don't want to be the person who's like, I'm doing dry January and then slip up and they see me later that night, like wasted. And they're like, what the hell? So I think that's part of it. And so I found that social events were okay. Like my husband's band played a show and I usually drink at every single one of their shows. There was one show where I was the driver and that's the only time I haven't drank at one of their shows. So I was like, okay, here we go. Here's the test. But it was fine. Like we went to dinner and we went to a diner and I ordered tea when everyone else, but it's like
so wholesome.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a diner, so it wasn't weird, you know.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the bar, I just got Diet Coke in like a pint glass.
Yeah.
And it was fine and then everyone saw it, like it lasted me the whole night because it's like a pint of Diet Coke. But it was like I had a drink in my hand. The only thing was dancing. I was like, I would be dancing a lot harder if I was drunk.
Yeah.
But that's life.
But it's also like everyone else around you in that situation is probably drunk.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yes.
You aren't afraid of making a fool of yourself.
No.
Because you don't have alcohol, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did dance and, you know, like people came up and talked to me who were drinking. Like it wasn't like I was a loner standing in the corner because I was sober.
Yeah.
And it was actually lovely because, well, I didn't spend any money.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got my pop for free. And I got home and went straight to bed.
Yeah.
Which like after these shows, it's like high adrenaline mixed with me being like wasted. And then it's like, we've got to order food. We've got to like watch something on the TV to unwind. And then we've got to do that and then tidy up. And it's like, I'm not going to bed till 3:30 or 4.
Yeah.
And like, that's fun in theory, but it wipes out the rest of your weekend because you're exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one show, I went to bed and it was still late. Like it was like 1:30. And so I went to bed, fell asleep instantly, slept until 10, woke up and I was like, I feel great. I did yoga. Like,
yeah,
that is the positive of it. Like the worst part about alcohol for me, like as someone who's only drinking it socially, it's like the next morning, if you're feeling bad, you spend too much money. So being sober gets rid of all of that.
Yeah.
But the thing that I struggled with the most is, like you were saying, the grabbing a glass of wine after a hard day. And I think it's because that doesn't even register to me as drinking. Like it was part of a routine. It's like when, you know, I wake up and pour my coffee. Yeah. I'm not thinking like, okay, here's part of my bread. Like I'm doing it without even realizing. And so it would be like, okay, I'm cooking dinner. I'll go grab a glass of wine. And then I'd be like, oh, wine has alcohol in it. Like I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So then it's
that's
like,
so true.
I'm not, I don't know what the right word is, but I feel like if you brought more awareness into your actions or even thinking, if your instinct is like, let's grab a glass of wine and then being like, pause, why?
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know, because I feel like that's what adults do after work.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Or maybe it's like, I don't know, I'm cooking Italian and I think this wine would taste good. Like, okay, that's a good reason. Sure.
Yeah.
But it's not just doing it because that's what you do.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what sober curiosity is challenging, is that the engraved
instinct.
Yeah. And it's like, it's okay to drink, like totally. But are you doing it because it's just normal, or are you doing it because there's like an intention behind it? Like you were saying,
that's the decision you made.
Yeah.
And even like for us, it's maybe a glass of wine after a hard day of work. But I think like even people, maybe you're like, I drink beer every time I watch a hockey game.
Yeah.
And you're like, and this is just what I do. But it's like, well, there's a lot of hockey games during the week, and then that adds up. And are you just having this beer because that's what you do?
Yeah.
Or for another reason?
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's, I think, the major thing I learned this year. And yeah.
I think another, I guess, part, not to backtrack, but another reason why I was also intrigued by Dry January came to mind when you were just talking around hangovers. Like, the older I get, the worse my hangovers get.
Yeah.
And I think that's normal. But part of that is also the anxiety. Like, I'd never really experienced that in college when I was drunk all the time, you know, but as soon as I started, probably living on my own has been a big one, where you don't have somebody to like debrief with the next day. But it's like, why do I choose to do this? Because sure, it's fun the night of, but that's like a few hours. But then I have to spend days, literally days, recovering physically, but even like weeks mentally. Like, was it worth it? Again, like, I don't know. And I think just being an anxious person or having anxiety, it's like, if you know something is going to make it worse, why do you do it? You know, when you can actively make the choice to not make a bad like situation worse. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. See, another thing I wanted to bring up is in the month of either November or December, I went to a concert that a friend was performing. And I had a big event the next morning that I knew, like, I'm going to have to wake up early for, and like, it's going to be a thing. But I still wanted to drink. And so I was like, I'm only having 2 drinks and that's it. If I want any more drinks, it's going to be water. And this was the only thing I've ever done where I was like strict with the limit, which is weird because like, that seems like the first logical step.
Yeah.
Between like you are drunk or you're doing Dry January, but it just never occurred to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great because I woke up without a hangover. I still, had 2 drinks socially, was a little buzzed, nothing crazy. And so I did want to bring that up too. Like, if
it doesn't have to be all or nothing kind of thing.
Exactly. Because maybe you're like, I don't know. I still want to drink. I just don't want to drink as much. Maybe try setting a limit like that. Like it can be hard because it's like maybe, once you're at 2 drinks, it's easier to convince yourself to keep going.
Or you get caught up in the moment. That's always me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where I'm just like, well, I'm already buzzed, so let's keep it drinking. Going. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And it's all about knowing yourself, but setting boundaries. And then that's it, because you might not get anxiety or a hangover after 2 drinks, but you do after 4. So yeah, I think that's great. Part of my lessons learned, actually, and this was probably the biggest lesson learned and the biggest, like, I don't know, self-discovery piece for me, because we know I love to unlock parts of myself through all these little challenges. But I think I also realized how I'm that friend who pressures other people to drink. And that was a really awful feeling, because I even think of Tag when me and you have gone out and you only have 2 drinks and I'm like, girl, keep drinking. Come on.
Right.
Why? Like, even on like a different scale of if you're somebody who doesn't drink, I feel like I never intentionally make people feel bad about it, but I probably do, because I ask them questions. I am like, oh, you're not drinking? Like, I point it out. I make it a thing when it doesn't have to be a thing. And I think for me, having a reason why I did Dry January that was so personal, in the sense of all of these things are going wrong in my life. There's something wrong with me. I have a reason, or even I have anxiety and drinking makes it worse. Like, you don't know why somebody's not drinking. So who am I to then make them feel bad about that? To ask questions when it could be something very personal. And to try to make them go against what they want just to fit into the social situation
Right.
or to please me. Like, who am I to just mind my own business, you know? So that was hard because I could think of a few times you, like I was just saying, like going out with you and being like, keep drinking. Like that came to mind. One of my friends doesn't drink hardly at all. And I, like, when we were FaceTiming, I was like, I just want to say I'm sorry. Like, I didn't even realize I was doing this. And if I've ever made you feel this way, like, I'm sorry, you know? And it just was kind of me having that realization. But then now moving forward, I hope to be more mindful of that. And this, I think, also ties into the whole conversation around mental health. The more people talk about not drinking and the more I learn about it, the more it's just normal and okay, rather than being so out of left field, me being wondering why they're doing this, but then kind of projecting my, I don't know, judgments or like projecting like my lack of knowledge and ignorance on the situation as aggressive and like pressuring them to drink. Like, I don't know. It was just an interesting, like I said, self-discovery moment for me.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of, like, especially like in university and college, it's like to be a good friend socially. It's to like be cheering them on to keep drinking, to grab like, what's a good friend? Someone who grabs you a drink when they're going to get one. Like, so part of it, I think, is changing expectations, or I don't know, around that. And then that's what makes you a good friend. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's a great point, because even I had some realizations about my friendships and friends who literally all we do when we see each other is drink. And it's like, is that a good friendship? Like, what, you know, is this good? Is this as good of a friendship as I thought it was? You know what I mean? If all we do is drink together, like, I don't know. It's just, it's interesting. Yeah. What makes a good friend? And I don't know. Why is drinking involved?
Yeah. Even like, I feel like everyone knows a person who like their whole personality is that they smoke weed, and it's like, it's all they can talk about. And you're like, just stop talking about smoke. Like, it's not as cool as you think it is. But then it's like, there's a lot of people that are like that with booze too, where all their stories are like, I was so drunk, this happened. And it's kind of the same thing, even though I feel like it hasn't been seen as the same thing until very recently, where, I don't know, if someone's like a party person, they're fun. And it's like, well, it's kind of weird though. Like, if it was anything else, and the person was talking about it that much, you'd be like, do you need help? So,
okay, I think the next thing we wanted to talk about, just to wrap it all up, is intentions around alcohol moving forward. You know, like, I think I've shared a few realizations I had through this little experiment, if you will. And Tegan, you say you do this every year. So is that something you're going to keep up? You're going to like implement more throughout the year? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think I will definitely continue doing it every January. I just, this was also the second year where I did like a 30-day yoga challenge, and it's just a nice way to start the year. You're starting the year with like a clear head. Like, when you look at the end of January and you're like, what? Okay, this is the first month. What goals did I achieve? It's not like, oh, I didn't do my yoga because I got drunk that day and then I was so hungover I couldn't do it. Like, it just allows you to like actually focus on your goals and that kind of thing. I think as far as for the rest of the year, I don't have anything too particular. Like, I don't want to get like blackout drunk. Although I'm very rarely like, my goal is to get blackout drunk.
That's the problem. It's never your goal. When it's your goal, you can't get there.
I would like to experiment more with having like drink limits on nights. Like, not saying I'm going to be sober at this show, but saying I'm only having 3 drinks because I have something to do tomorrow. And whether that's I'm purposely like booking an early yoga class, or if I'm just deciding that, I would like to try that. I also am volunteering myself to be DD at a lot of like the band events, which was something that I never wanted to do before because I was like, that's no fun.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, who cares? And if
Yeah.
they need it, it gives me an excuse to save money, stay sober for a show, and I get to help
I
the
love
band.
that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And so I think that's pretty much it. Like I still, I'm going on vacation and I'm very much planning on drinking through the vacation. I am also a person who really enjoys drinks. Like I like making drinks and going to like fancy bars where they make you fancy drinks. Like I'm not really a foodie.
Mhm.
I'm a drinky. No. And so it's like, I don't want to cut it out because I enjoy it. And I got, stuff for Christmas to make fancy drinks. And and especially in summer, like it's a different vibe than January. Like I have a backyard. I want to sit in the backyard and have a margarita.
Totally.
And I'm not going to feel bad about it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But those are, I think, pretty much all my intentions. That's what came to mind.
I like that. It's just, I think that's so important. It's just figuring out your boundaries and sticking to them. Like that's essentially like how to sum it up. I think that's so good.
Yeah.
For me, I think I'm going to take your advice on that. I feel like I should be better at sticking to my boundaries because I do know what they are. Like, I don't know, but I am someone who usually gets swept away and is like, I'm just going to keep drinking because I'm here. It's happening. We might as well. But I know that there's side effects like my anxiety and everything I've been talking about. So I think that's a great takeaway for me from this episode. But my biggest thing, I think, is just regardless if I'm consuming it or not, is just like I was saying, being mindful and more accepting of my friends who aren't drinking. And I don't know, just also being more intentional with why I'm going for a drink rather than doing it because it's part of the routine.
Yeah.
How you said it. I think that's perfect. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Like I don't think I'm going to become like somebody who doesn't drink ever. I also enjoy it. Like you're saying, I like going for dinner and drinks and I love holding a glass of wine and, I don't know. Yeah. And I don't want to feel bad about it. Like you said too, but I think it is just more realizing what I'm doing and why I'm doing it rather than just, this is just who I am,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I saw this thing on TikTok and it was around how to spend like less time on your phone, but it kind of applies to breaking any habit that you want to break. And they were like, if you're trying to spend less time on your phone or say you're trying to spend less time drinking, think of it in the opposite terms. So you think, what would I do if I wanted to spend more time on my phone? Well, I would keep it beside my bed. I would have all my notifications on. I would have my ringer on. And then it's like, so if you want to reverse it, just do the opposite. Don't keep your phone next to your bed. And so it's like, what would you do if you wanted to drink more? You would have like your fridge stocked all the time. You would plan big events with friends who drink every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, anything. So then you flip it. You're like, okay, I want to cut down on my alcohol. I'm not going to have it in my house. I am not going to go to those events and start there. And then that can help, I think, figure out to what you are looking for and how to kind of break the habit of I drink every day after work because that's what I do. It's like, but if you don't have it in your house, it's not really a habit if you have to walk to the beer store. Like that's a different vibe. So yeah, I wanted to throw that out.
That's really, really great advice.
Anything else?
That's it. I've shared my guts and soul per usual.
Yeah, alcohol is a very touchy subject. I actually, talking through it now, I realize I talk to my therapist about alcohol a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I feel like it's, I don't know why.
Well, I think it's just what we were saying. It's just so ingrained in our lives without us even realizing it.
Yeah.
And then when you do start to realize it, you're like, what the fuck? When did this happen?
Yeah.
Why? Like, why did this happen?
Yeah.
And then you start to really think about it. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is the end of this week's episode. Thank you for listening. Like we said, we're going to put the connection card question up on our Instagram. And so make sure you're following us there. We're at Our Golden 20s, and we're also on Facebook and Pinterest and Spotify. And we also have a Patreon page. We did do a bonus episode last week only for our patrons. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, definitely check it out. We also have some affiliate links for some companies that we think are really cool in the show notes. So definitely check that out as well.
Talking about saving money.
Yeah.
We're
Cut
giving you
the
another
booze,
way.
spend it on our affiliate links.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's everything. Thanks for listening.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye.